What's up, cool people? I'm Matt Conroy, and so with the current political climate and the major us versus them mentality, long term, it would seem a great solution would be introducing a third party to the mix. And of course, to do that, you have to vote third party. A good number of people have to vote third party. I'm going to get into why that isn't exactly the easiest solution. Yes, it's a good idea long term, but it's a little more complicated than it sounds. So, first off, regarding this particular election, let me just say before I get into any other stuff about voting third party that, first off, vote with whoever you fall in line with most closely. Like, don't be voting one party just to spite another or something like that. When it comes to, the Democratic and Republican parties, the fact that those are the major players right now is kind of disappointing, given the current states of both parties, seemingly. I personally am especially disappointed in the Republican Party. Not that I'm saying they're flat out wrong on everything, but I'm not going to get into that. But right now, this is a pretty important election, given how heated things are. And basically, if you're okay with what Donald Trump has been doing and how things have gone overall in our political scene and in our country since his presidency, then it seems like voting Donald Trump for a re-election is the way you would probably go. Most people are probably already thinking that. But if you're not satisfied with Donald Trump, with the Republican Party, and how things have been going in our country and our politics since Donald Trump has become president, I would say that you might want to actually think about voting Democrat anyway, even if you would more closely line up with a different party, with some other party that's not Democrat or Republican. For this election, at least, you might want to think about voting Democrat, because if Donald Trump ends up getting reelected, we as a country are basically saying that we're okay with what he's been doing so far. And if we're not, then we need to not have him as president. Anyway, now again back to the main topic idea of voting third party. So, here's why voting third party is a little complicated. First of all, you kind of have to air quote third party, because that assumes there's one particular other party that would have the next highest number of votes. And between different election cycles, I don't know if that's really been the case. I guess more often than not, it has technically been the independent party that has been like the next runner-up, so to speak. But there are, I think when I looked this up recently, there's like, technically speaking, over 40 active current political parties. So, like, saying vote third party, it's like, which party are you considering to be the third party? We've got, if you're talking just kind of major well-known ones, other parties could be independent, libertarian, Green Party, Constitution Party, the Tea Party, since that had a falling out with the Republican Party. Anyway, I think most of you know the story behind that, and if not, just look up Sarah Palin. But again, those are ones that most people know about. Never mind the fact that we have like 30 plus other active political parties in our country. But nobody pays attention to these other ones. Because, I mean, it's hard to get people's minds off of just Democrat and Republican in the first place. So, like, getting enough people to vote for a singular other party is a major task at this point. Even if you get a bunch of people to vote parties that are not Democrat or Republican, you need the same other party to get enough votes in the election, if not to win the election, then, you know, I think there's what is it, a 5% threshold that I've heard needs to be breached in order for a particular party to get you know, more billing, for lack of a better word, in the next election. Which, again, that system in and of itself is kind of ridiculous and, if you ask me, a little bit rigged, but enough people, even just ignoring that whole idea of trying to vote to get them more media attention and involvement and consideration, at some point, if we're to get another political party really truly involved in the process, we're eventually going to need enough votes for that party, for that same other party, to actually get people in office. And there are very few exceptions. There's like, I think, at most 5, I think it's maybe more like 3 other political parties besides Democrat and Republican who currently have active members in Congress. And legitimately speaking, even those people, like, I know for a while, most of the time, Bernie Sanders has been kind of considering himself independent or some other party, and yet when it comes around to the election cycle, he has gone back to running on the Democratic ticket, and that's, or at least trying to do that, and that's not really, like, that doesn't help get another party really thoroughly involved in the political process. So somebody would need to be big enough and get enough votes in order for another party to really even be thoroughly considered for the next election cycle, never mind this particular one. And with how many people already seem to have their minds made up, it seems basically impossible at this point to get enough people voting for some other party to certainly to have a president from a third party elected, but even just other positions seem like, you know, they're always less likely, at least with the current political scene. Another party is far less likely to get elected. And again, with so much attention being paid to Democrats and Republicans and so many people already having their minds made up, I'm not sure it's really going to be possible within this election cycle to get another candidate elected in the majority of positions. So that kind of goes back to what I was saying before about how for this particular election, it might not be the best idea to vote third party. Because, again, third party is kind of vague. Because there are multiple other parties that could be introduced, possibly, but you would need one specific other party to get enough votes for it to even really be considered as the third party, like the actual legitimate in the eyes of the media and our politics, like as the actual legitimate third party contender. So, yeah, all this to say, the idea of voting third party, while in concept it is a good way to move forward, with this particular election and people just being, with so many people seeming to already have their minds made up, I don't think it's really going to be possible to get the effect that people want in this election cycle out of voting third party. Maybe hopefully sometime in the near future, we can get it to a point where voting for another party might actually have some legitimacy and would actually, bring more attention to other parties that we have and maybe get us out of this, two-party deadlock that we seem to be in. But again, with the presidential election, at least, it seems highly unlikely. Now, I don't know for sure what would be an effect on voting third party for other positions. But again, we would need everybody, or at least enough people, to consistently vote on the same third party in order for them to meet that 5% or whatever cutoff point to where they actually get room in the next election cycle's debates and all that kind of stuff. So for right now, I don't know if it's the best solution. Long term, I think it's a goal that we need to be looking at in order to have more accountability, more flexibility, more just diversity in thought in our political discussions. But for right now, because so many people have their minds made up, and because there are multiple parties and everybody would have to kind of focus on one, I don't think for this election cycle that it's realistic to think that we could, certainly that we could get some other party elected president. But even, I think it might be difficult to even get to the point where we meet that sort of cutoff where, we've reached the percentage of the vote that would get another party billing and seating and, a legitimate place in discussions for the next election cycle. But anyway, I'm kind of talking around in circles at this point, which means I need to wrap this up. So, as much as I would love to say vote third party, for right now, I'm not sure that it's the best idea. You might want to just consider, out of Democrats and Republicans, which one of those align more with your current stances on the various issues. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say for this time around. Again, I wish it was a different situation, but currently, if we're being realistic, I'm not sure we have the legitimate option of another choice. But if we can band together in the future and kind of talk a little more about this idea and get behind any particular other party enough to actually kind of make this legitimate, then I'm all for it. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say on the matter, for now at least. So, as always, like, share, subscribe, click the bell. You know what to do. And if you don't, just look down in the description for more info on how to keep up with me here and all my other social media pages, how to interact, and all that good stuff. And of course, leave comments down below with your thoughts. I'm not going to claim to be a political expert, so if you have more knowledge on the specifics of kind of getting a third party to the forefront, definitely leave those comments, as well as any other thoughts that you have on other things you want me to talk about. Any ideas you have for me, let me know down below. So that's going to do it. Hope you're all doing well. Hopefully I will see you for the next video. But until then, stay cool, people.